would say that I have a strong opinion on the matter. What do you think of the rune tale?
Mm, I don't know what to think of it. I don't think I would find myself expressing something like that
Yeah. Do you
again.
um
Like, there may have been a time where I would have agreed with the sentiment, but I don't think making things illegal is accomplishes much of anything for the greater good.
in regard
And
yeah, in regards to the legality of the issue, I think that it more concerns itself with I mean, as we both know, the law isn't always the best at concerning itself with what is actually morally just or not.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the law is in and of itself ultimately kind of criminal, but that's a different matter.
Yeah. It would just be more in regards to trying to obviously the room title is quite clickbaity and just like it's a bit extreme, but what I'm trying to like get across is I guess I'm trying to ask people to name the trait like lacking in animals which if present in human would justify killing and slaughtering humans, to see if just to see what their response is, you know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, on the matter of that's a different direction. I think that's actually more interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, on the matter of like what we consume, I'm convinced that it's only a matter of time before it'll simply be more efficient for us to use something less alive. Like, literally just get to the point of primarily chemicals and
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think
quote quote
I
fake meats.
yeah, in regards to eating meat should be illegal as the title, it's obviously quite a blanket statement. But I would actually go as far to say that I do not have a problem with eating meat. Let's say if it's like a lab grown meat, something synthesized that isn't causing any like pain or suffering. The reason that or if it's like roadkill, some weird individual that wants to eat roadkill. But the main issue that I have is that there's usually cognitive dissonance and moral inconsistencies when someone tries to name the trait as mentioned before, because that we do tend to place moral worth and value on the consciousness and the sentience of an animal, whether it be a dog or a cat. I know there's certain cultures as well, like China, example, and places in Asia where they eat dogs, but this just kind of points towards it being very arbitrary on where we decide what we can eat and what we can't eat. But I think that people place worth on their pets' lives, and it's not just because it's their property, but it's also because that they recognize the worth of the animal's experience and its ability to perceive its surroundings and have some ability of self-awareness. But then we can also, if the trait is like intelligence or cognition, then we can point towards people who are like mentally disabled who don't have the same recognition or awareness. And a few people came in here and said that that they would kill, if they were like a dictator, they would kill off disabled people as well. So it's just they're trying to be as consistent as possible, but ultimately, um, yeah, I think that reducing suffering is like should be seen as a moral obligation in my view, even if that's a subjective claim. Um,
Makes sense.
yeah.
But I love meat.
What do you can you name the trait in animals which, if lacking in humans, would justify killing and slaughtering them?
Say that again.
I said, can you name the trait in animals which, if lacking in humans, would justify killing and slaughtering human beings?
Trait in animals that would justify killing human beings. Is that what you said?
Yeah, can you name the trait? What is the thing
That's a
that animals, lack that if that was present in humans as well, it would justify us doing?
cognitive, cognitive thinking skills, like on the same par as humans.
Okay. So what about if we take a human that's mentally disabled who doesn't have those same thinking skills? Can we kill and slaughter them?
Can they kill and slaughter?
Now, can we kill and slaughter someone that has the same, like, I don't know, intelligence or cognitive abilities as a pig or a cow because they're severely mentally retarded or they've been in an accident?
Yes.
Okay, well, don't you see an issue with that? Like, do you think that that's morally abhorrent?
But to kill somebody who's basically already gone, like brain dead, basically, right?
Not necessarily brain dead. I mean, pigs and cows are extremely intelligent, so it's just someone that maybe has like the intelligence of an infant, right?
I mean, no, I don't think we should kill them. Then, I mean, if I mean,
So the
I
trait
mean,
isn't cognition then. So what would the trait be?
dude, are they like capable of doing like your average normal day stuff?
Well, we've just established that it's not about cognition, right? So, and animals clearly have like high cognitive capacity. So the trait
No,
would
they
be something else.
not. They have cognitive capacities, but not on par with somebody that may have autism or like now they're not that like high in terms of cognitive capacity compared to like you're a human that's not like mentally like there.
Okay, so if intelligence is what gives, like, so you're saying intelligence is what gives life value and worth, right?
Intelligence, um, I guess to an extent, yeah.
So what about the fact that like a pig or a cow is more intelligent than a dog or a cat? Would you be okay with me skinning and your dog alive in the street and killing it?
My dog, because it's my dog, no. But like, if it was another dog,
Okay, so why
Whoa,
do you
whoa,
place
whoa,
worth on your
whoa.
dog's life?
huh?
Why do you place worth on your dog's life? It surely isn't just because it's your property,
Because
it's also because of its life, right?
it's because the dog is my property, bro.
Well, surely you surely you don't just see it as like an object the same as like something else, right?
It's the same thing. If you were to kill my pig and I owned the pig, like you're
It's
basically
purely
violating
selfish.
what?
So it's like a purely selfish kind of motivation.
But like, like you violate. I mean, I guess so.
So you
If
can
you get a
see.
chance to kill somebody else's dog, you will not hesitate.
If I had the chance to kill somebody to help a dog,
What?
you said if I had to kill somebody to help a dog, I wouldn't hesitate.
No, no, I asked you if you had the ch like if you were randomly walking in the street and nobody's looking at you, it's okay for you to kill a dog.
Is it okay for me to kill a dog? Well,
Nah, G, I think you gotta understand. The one person asked, "What is the trait that, for example, animals are lacking that humans have that leads to us being all right with, you know, killing an animal for the sake of, for example, meat, but not humans?" And then it somehow got turned into like, but it's not just humans that we have qualms with killing usually, uh, or resistance there too. It's also our pets. So it was asked like, wouldn't why would you, why wouldn't you kill your pets?
Yeah,
And
yeah, where's the limit?
furthermore,
Yeah.
how would you react to somebody hurting your pet? And the individual responded like, well, gee, they're coming at me if they're doing that. And it's like, yeah, I, he wasn't saying he's going around trying to kill dogs or something like that. But it
Yeah,
sounded
yeah,
more
but
like Kazuma
you ask
also
the
saw it
harder
as,
question, get the perspective. That's why you ask it, like you invoke the question, because puts in perspective. Now, when he tried to answer it, you understand what his word meant. Does it actually his dog that matters, or oh, he cares about other living beings?
Well, no, honestly, the impression I got, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but it sounds like Kazuma
Well, he's just the only
imagined
being
this
on the planet.
circumstance in which somebody attacks, for example, his dog. And, I mean, he did conclude at the end, yeah, it's purely selfish reasons, but in that circumstance, by extension, they are also attacking him. It sounds, frankly, like Kazuma's a type that's like, well, even if it was something he didn't care about at all, if you go after it, it's part of a larger pattern where somebody's checking somebody out, like, hey, can I keep doing this with you? I don't know if that's the case.
Well, he's changed his argument because at first it was intelligence, but then I said that like some animals are just as smart as
I don't.
types of humans, right? But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that. Like, honestly, I think I'm wondering what you're really wondering, and if there is something that you're really wondering. Because firstly, the question, I see it as problematic, but I'm also not assuming to know what your intentions are.
me.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just trying to
because
help maybe people see like cognitive dissonance and the inconsistency.
oh boy,
Yeah, that's all really.
I hear you.
Yeah. It's not that I like am here to feel like stroke my own ego or be above like meat eaters on some kind of like moral hierarchy. It's just more in the sense of like I think people genuinely have like cognitive dissonance because obviously they'll value they'll place value within intelligence, but then they'll also value a life that isn't very intelligent because it's a life that they feel belongs to them, which is like inherently selfish and just problematic from a moral perspective.
Yeah,
But
I said
yeah,
oh boy because like
yeah,
I don't know how invested you are emotionally into this, but if
oh yeah, I
don't know.
vegan. Yeah, I am vegan.
No, I mean that the thought of like
Yeah,
the why am I thinking it's cognitive dissonance, but I'm remembering a different word.
right.
I think I just don't use that term a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm saying, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're sorry. Like, I know I've tried to kind of like point out to people how their lines of reasoning don't seem to be very consistent.
Wait. Yeah.
In hopes that this would change that.
We saw that. Can you restate your original question?
yeah, of course, yeah. So I'm gonna I'll try to lay the groundwork so you can understand what I'm saying. So with the name the trait argument, what I'm trying to say is that you've got to name the trait which would justify treating humans and animals so differently from one another. If it's intelligence, then that's not going to work because some animals are just as smart as humans, so that trait doesn't add up. If it's the ability to reason, then that doesn't work either because many humans don't have the ability to fully reason, such as those who are mentally disabled. If it's language, then that doesn't add up either because many humans don't speak, in complex languages either, or they might not be able to understand each other if they're speaking in different languages. So we need to find a trait which would justify exploiting animals, what we do in fact.
I disagree.
I have two things to say. First, mentally disabled people can reason just to an extent, but they can still like reason like pretty well, depending. But like, and do you value like humans and like animals the same or something?
Yes.
Like on a hierarchy.
Yeah, so I would value the life the same. I think if there's not much way to differentiate conscious experience, someone that's conscious, like we believe ourselves to have more control over our actions due to the fact that we have self-awareness, but in reality, our conscious experience is just our ability to experience the world around us, the external stimuli, right? And that's the exact same thing for other animals, and we kind of go down this cause of chain and effect, and we believe ourselves to have more capabilities due to higher cognition, but like in reality, that doesn't give us more intrinsic worth or value. It's just an arbitrary line that we're drawing like through the sand.
Yeah, and I think the question itself is based on a line of thinking that I don't find agreeable, right? Like, for example, the question to me doesn't leave room for what if it's not a trait, which is what I would personally conclude.
Well, yeah,
more likely than not.
that's the point. Yeah, that like I'm giving people a hypothesis.
Oh,
Is what is the trait, and they're not ultimately going to be able to find one. You know. Which
yeah, that
will
makes sense.
then conclude that clearly there's not a trait, and it's just a moral inconsistency. You know.
What about actually finding out like what the difference is?
Well, the only difference that I can really like actually derive from this would be the fact like they are non-human, right? But the issue with that is it's another arbitrary line, because that we can just draw lines in the sun with any kind of like arbitrary reasoning and say, well, like black people aren't humans because they're black, or women aren't humans because they're women, or like we can just make things up and draw arbitrary lines, or we can think of like another species of humans that's maybe like you know, we killed off Neanderthals, so I guess we had that same way of thinking back then, and we're extremely you know, we're very concerned with our own interest, and like kind of like many animals, it's kind of like the selfish gene.
Right.
But
I think
yeah,
that would definitely be something that makes it more difficult for a person to take the lines of actions that are generally taken towards animals for the sake of making them food towards another human being.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're not there, right? Like something that would make it more difficult, a human being, in a lot of instances, is if somebody does not. Well, the fact simply is that you're witnessing a human being dying, and it is very easy to, through one's mirror neurons, imagine what if I'm on the end of this. Whereas with an animal, a human doesn't relate to it to the point where it thinks, okay, what if I was this animal normally? Of course, humans can.
Maybe you don't relate to it.
Well, I definitely don't look at an animal in most cases as having the same. Well, I don't look at anything as having the same worth.
Well, I think in the sense that they have like a nervous system and they're able to experience the suffering would be the biggest thing, because I don't fully know what like pain would feel like to another human being. Like objectively speaking, they might have like a different pain threshold, for example. But in regards to animals, like obviously if you see footage of like animals within factory farming, you'll see that they try to like escape from the pain and suffering. They'll squeal, they'll cry, they'll scream. And they'll have like a bolt gun put in their head repeatedly, which isn't a very effective method of killing them, so it'll be done again and again. And they'll also be kicked and thrown and like abused, but just because there's not any laws in place to protect these animals. I mean, it's the same with pets. There's not really like a written law per se, but it's just like a logical kind of assumption that we've come to, that we're not going to like cause suffering to these animals. But it's like an arbitrary line, so it's yeah.
So, are you like stepping on insects because they're on the ground all the time?
Well, I'm definitely against stepping on insects intentionally, but there's something that's very minute and difficult. Like it's about reducing suffering to a point that is like reasonably plausible and possible. And if it's something like, I don't need to necessarily like donate all of my money and all of my possessions to charity just because I can, because then I will suffer, and it will mean that like my experience as a person is like, you know, I can't even live my life properly. I'll basically just end up dying and starving, you know. So it's similar to that, like you're going to kill insects, basically. Yeah.
Stepping on ants is not really exploitation. Vegans are more worried about the exploitation part.
Yeah.
Well, if you know for a fact that the animal is not suffering from pain, you would be okay with eating animals, correct?
No.
You know for sure.
God, I fucking love the taste of dead animal flesh.
Hold on.
Dead animal flesh. Oh, it's so fucking yummy.
Yeah.
There's no lot in here.
Let me just. Do you have a?
The rotting flesh, dude. I burnt their flesh and it tastes so fucking good.
Yeah. Do you have an argument against vegans?
Sorry, my bad.
Eating burgers.
Yeah, my argument against vegans is that they're fucking lame.
Wow, that's really
like the same argument I have against like evangelical Christians. They're lame and they hate fun.
I'm amazed. This guy has a girlfriend.
That's my argument.
Good job. You made your girlfriend laugh. Good job. Yeah. No, stay quiet.
Based.
If he stays quiet, I'll let him stay. But yeah.
Please, sir, I ask you a
Yeah,
question.
I'll
If
stay
you know
quiet. Don't
for
worry.
sure,
I'm so worried about getting banned by vegans.
Bro, it's not a ban. It's just a
listen,
mute.
you answer
Yeah,
my
man.
question,
Muted by
sir.
vegans. Oh, that's even worse, man.
Very intelligent individual. So what were you guys saying?
Thank you.
I asked you a question. If you know for that the animals are not suffering when you are willing to kill them for food, you know for a fact they're not suffering from that. That would be fine for you eating
No.
animal.
So whenever you have a question like that, just replace the word animal with human.
No, no, no. Hold on. I'm asking the guy who created the channel.
Sorry, can you ask the question again, dude?
I asked you if you know for a fact eating animals when you're killing them for the intention to eat them. If you know for a fact they're not suffering from pain,
Yeah,
you would be fine with eating animals.
it would be better, but I would still have a problem with it because I place value and worth on on conscious experience as well, not just like think about a woman. Just if this is a hypothetical that might be a bit extreme, maybe I'll use a different one. Someone that doesn't feel any pain, they don't have any like nerve endings or whatever, and can we just cut like their head off? Like, no, I would say that they have worth.
So maybe you understood from this. Hey, if we drug the animal first. No, I'm not asking that. The animal realizes your intention to kill them for food
Yeah.
makes them not feeling any pain at that moment. You
Yeah,
understand
just
my question,
replace.
right? It's not drugging. Because the question can be answered by, hey, you can drug the animal before you kill him, and there is no
If what
pain.
you're asking,
Understand your concern.
if what you're asking is, would I be okay with slaughtering animals if there was no pain involved whatsoever?
And they acknowledging and they accepting it.
Well, no,
They're accepting it.
I would still not be okay with it. That was just a like kind of it's a hypothetical that would never, play out in reality, right? Because people like animals and beings want to preserve their own existence.
Yeah, Zach, if
What
you
if
have questions like that, you just replace the word animal with human. Is it okay to kill a human if they don't feel pain and they don't suffer?
No. Right, exactly.
because there's difference. There's difference
Yeah, of course
between
they're
an animal.
different. That's why I'm asking to compare. That's what a comparison is,
Yeah,
right? A comparison compares two different
black
things.
person has different skin color, so there's a distinction. Does that
Bro,
mean?
what is this comparison with black people, bro? I don't get it. It's so funny.
Well, I told you there's a distinction. You're making just an arbitrary distinction. I'm saying that maybe the black guy has black skin, or like, does that mean we can kill them? Because there's a line that we're drawing in the sand, right? But it's just arbitrary.
Bro, one is a completely different species from the other.
Okay, well, a dog is a different species from a pig, right? But
Right, and people value dogs over pigs.
okay, but that value is arbitrary, right? You would agree with me.
What do you mean? Like,
Well, I mean that it's just we've randomly decided that one has one more worth than the other on some kind of made-up, human-made construct in our mind, rather than actual any concrete intrinsic reality external to us.
really?
Yes. But I'm not sure that.
What about this scenario? God created the animals for us for food, and we should not kill them. Like for extra, like for pleasure or
Well,
for fun,
I'm
for
an
example.
atheist, so I wouldn't like forward that line of question.
What?
I don't believe there's a God, so.
No, I'm not asking. That's not my question, right? I'm asking you, what if that's the case?
If it's the case,
And the animal, when you're doing it, they realize it and they submit for you
this
to
is the thing.
slaughter.
Like, you guys don't have an argument, so you have to come up with these really like ridiculous like hypotheticals that would never play.
No, I'll give you evidence for it. I'll give you proof. Don't worry. I'm asking
We
you
don't,
if
we don't argue vegans on a daily basis, bro. It's just like,
I mean, I can definitely tell that you guys haven't formulated any sound arguments. Like that's very visible. But yeah, I'll listen.
He's asking you if someone submits, if someone gives up, is it okay to kill them?
No.
not someone, an animal is
Yeah, animals are
outside.
someone, right?
Yeah, animals are still.
Animals are
No.
individuals. Animals are
No.
someone.
No would be my answer.
No.
To that, yeah. Because life has worth, and also yes, potentially it would be better, but it's not like okay.
So, I have a question. Are you pro-life? Like in an abortion, I mean.
Sorry, yeah, I'm pro-choice.
But you're pro-choice, but you're okay. You're against, but you're vegan.
Yeah, I value the bodily autonomy of the woman who is alive, who doesn't want the baby, over the life
About the
that isn't
baby.
yet necessarily sentient to a degree that would actually experience any like pain or suffering because they don't even have the cognitive
Why is that?
capacity. Yeah.
Where
So
do
they-
you draw the line on that? So, like, once the baby's out, do you think there should be like
You fell for it
Yes,
slow. You
specifically.
fell for
should
they're
there,
trying to change it to an abortion debate.
yeah, can the woman decide a week later, well, I've changed
No.
my mind, I don't want this child, I
No.
want to kill it?
No.
So you draw the line once the child's outside of the woman's body. That's where you draw the line.
Once it's developed to a point in which it could actually like evidently, experience suffering.
Pain and experience pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do know that they do partial birth abortions in the United States where they rotate the child. It's semantics, basically. And the legs will be sticking out of the vagina, but the head's still inside. So it's not a child legally, and they drill a hole in its head without anesthesia and suck the brains out. I imagine that's pretty painful.
Okay,
is so
I don't know what this like has to do with like abortion as a whole, because there's some unethical ways in which babies are aborted. There's some women that put coat hangers like up their vagina to kill a baby. I'm not okay with that.
Well, it's legal. It's legal. Partial birth abortion.
Yeah, what's
is
legal
in
is
the
necessarily
United
what's
States.
moral. You know what? I don't think what
But
is
by
moral.
by people like you, that you're the slippery slope that gets to that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure you know what you're talking about.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. If people like you didn't exist, it wouldn't be legal. But you push the envelope until partial birth abortion's legal.
Yeah, I'm pro-choice, but I'm already saying I'm against if it's developed to a certain point that will experience suffering. I'm not saying that I'm
Well,
for abortions.
so you would be against partial birth abortion. You would be against that.
If it results in pain and suffering, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but why is
Well,
it
then
legal?
I actually respect what you're saying then, because you at least have some critical thinking there, you know.
Wait, doesn't.
He does. He said that if the child experiences pain or the entity experiences pain, I guess, is he a vegan also?
Yeah.
I'm guessing
Why
he
does
is.
that matter?
Room, yeah.
How does that matter?
It's vegan.
Okay, well, no, you have to give the devil his due. Even if you disagree with him on a lot of things, he just said no pain if the entity experiences pain. That's where he draws the line. Hold on a minute. There's a ton of people that are for abortion that don't care. In fact, the governor of my state wanted to have retroactive abortion up to 5 days after the child came out. They could still.
Yeah, you want to know why it's irrelevant or not?
Well, I mean, if you'd let me, I just wanted to finish what my thought on it, you know, but you kept interrupting me. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's irrelevant because for the same reason that why is murder bad? It's not because it causes pain to somebody. I mean, sure, that's bad, but the reason it's so bad, one of the worst things you can do, is because it is a type of theft. You are going to permanently erase someone's entire timeline, and that is what's bad about it, right? It's not the pain.
It's both, right?
If I murdered you and you respawn 3 days later, nobody would give a fuck about murder. It'd be a misdemeanor.
Well, I think death in and of itself is nothing to necessarily be feared. It's just absence of experience, so it's beyond comprehension. But yes, I get that it would hurt the people involved in that person's life who's dead. And I see where you're coming from. But yeah, pain and suffering would probably be like at the forefront of what I would prioritize, like in terms of the...
You're totally discounting his ideas on pain and suffering. He is relevant in that respect. It's not the all-encompassing everything, but pain and suffering matter.
Sure, but that's not what I mean. if I cause you pain and suffering, it's likely not going to get me in prison as long as if I were to murder you. And that the reason is because I'm permanently stealing all of your future experiences and the experiences your loved ones would have with you, and it's forever. You know,
Oh,
and it's permanent.
I think both of them are important. I think you raise a relevant point, but he does too. I mean, that's where he draws a line. I mean, there are some people that don't have any line to draw. I'm just saying, give him some credit where credit is due. You know, if you don't, then people like him are just going to go in the opposite direction.
I think he's already all the way in the opposite direction. I don't think he can go any further.
Well, he has empathy. He doesn't want the entity to suffer. I listen. I'm on your side actually, but I do think he's making a relevant point. If you get your foot in the door, your ass is coming next. You know. You can't just alienate somebody. If you want them to come over to your side of thinking, you have to have a real discussion with them. Is all I'm saying. I'm an old man. It's that's how I think. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah, empathy is good.
Yeah, he has empathy. I've known people that have zero empathy. They're total narcissists. They're sadists. In fact, they have a reverse empathy. They like to have pain and suffering. They feed off of it. I know somebody very close to me that's like that.
I feel like you're congratulating him for stepping over such a low bar. Is the problem?
Well, let me lay some groundwork for you, like Tax the Poor. Like, I would agree with you that the absence of life is negative because it results in stealing the future timeline. But the future timeline is something that hasn't even been established yet. It won't necessarily be established because the future doesn't exist yet. And the reason it's going to be bad is because it's going to cause pain and suffering to the people who love that person. So yes, it will exacerbate pain and suffering. But death is nothingness. You know, we don't know what happens after death, so it's not really to be feared because there's no one to death. You know.
It seems like the timeline is established, though. You have a fertilized egg in an incubator in the womb.
Okay, well, on that note, I would say that like which is gonna suffer more, the baby that's gonna potentially this baby will grow up in a family where it wasn't wanted, and then it's gonna suffer psychologically, potentially physical abuse.
Why? Because you say so.
But this is unpredictable either way, right? Because it could end up being wanted throughout that hormonal or
well, if she wants an abortion, I would imagine it isn't wanted, right? Which is what we're saying.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that can be in that instance, right, or in that initial moment, or even multiple moments. But again, it's unpredictable whether or not that child will end up being wanted, as you said. Also, it's just a weird hypothetical to kind of draw that conclusion onto either way.
So we can guarantee that the woman's going to suffer we can guarantee the woman's going to suffer, and we're going to disregard.
What do you mean? What do you mean suffer? By the way, what do you mean by
suffering? If she doesn't want the baby, right? Then she's going to suffer.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? That's unpredictable, no? Are you saying in the instance where they up to how many months is it unwanted?
I'm not sure. Like I don't know how many months.
One instance where they feel that emotion, like that's what I'm saying.
Well, I know that if a woman's going to have an abortion, she doesn't want the baby, right? I'm just going off that. So there's going to be suffering involved for her, whereas the hypothetical of the suffering for the baby, like you can see the distinction here.
Does she share in the responsibility? She didn't have to have unprotected sex, Soul died. So, what about her responsibility?
Okay, so there's like a certain level of responsibility. I don't get on board with like people having, like careless sex and like taking risks and things like that. Like you've got to have like, control over that. But then to a certain degree, there's many cases where, maybe birth control doesn't work, or there's rape, or there's loads of instances. And I think the bodily autonomy, whatever the circumstances, should still be like prioritized over the potential of a baby suffering, which it most likely doesn't in a certain amount of months.
And the only thing I would agree with you on is
That's the exception for rape, but I think that's it.
Oh, I have a video that can change your mind. It's a very short video.
Yeah, but
Want to watch it
am I
together?
gonna watch?
I thought they were discussing like vegetarianism in here.
Yeah, veganism. Yeah.
Or vegan. Are you a vegan?
I actually like upload YouTube videos, so I don't know if you guys would be cool with me uploading this debate, but I do upload debates and stuff.
But are you a vegan? Are you a vegan?
Yes.
Soul diet.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, do you mind if we watch a 10-minute video together?
I just woke up. Do I have to watch a baby being dismembered? I mean, that's probably
Wariacie, jeśli lekarz ci napierdala diaksem w ten jebany gips, to nie pani...
Oh, what's this?
Yeah, I'm cool with talking about abortion, but just for now, like if it's okay if we can stay on the topic of
It's on the topic. The video is on the topic. Can we watch it together? Can you share your screen with the video I share with you?
Sorry, is it related to like whether eating meat should be illegal?
It is. It is, yes. It's the evidence that you're looking for.
I'm not sure. Drop it in the side chat. Let me see.
Don't be judged from.
No, I'm not interested in this Islamic slaughter. It's still taking the life of like a sentient being, and there's still suffering involved.
Oh, there.
How do you know? You didn't watch the video. They're not slaughtering in the video, but they're preparing for slaughter. You have to see it.
Halal.
I've seen this video before. He's just going to cut the animal's throat without any kind of, in America it's against the law. Now but there's exceptions for religious reasons. So, but I mean, most slaughterhouses have to stun the animal first.
Right. Yeah. I guess it's
usually a 22 bullet. Like if it's a pig, they put a 22 long rifle bullet behind the ear to stun the pig. I mean, that's one way of doing it. You'll live longer if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. There's no doubt in my mind. And I'm not one, but you will live longer because it's healthier existence. But oddly enough, vegetarianism, not veganism, but vegetarianism was brought about here by Christians in the United States. They're called Seventh-day Adventists. Right. They own like Kellogg's Corn Flakes and all that. So they're the ones that kind of
the Adventist Health Study too, right? Where they look into like the people like the vegetarians and vegans and things over like a prolonged.
Yeah, I grew up in that church. So like they live way up into their 90s. And they're still ambulatory and still not having dementia and all that. There's no, and like I say, I don't practice it anymore. Yeah. But you will live a lot longer. Now they're not vegans; they're vegetarians.
I think this is primarily due to the fact that most people like let's look at like a standard American diet. It consists of like loads of refined, processed carbohydrates and sugars, and then mixed with like processed red meats and like trans fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, all of which kind of conglomerate and contribute to like arterial plaque building up in your arterial walls. And it's just kind of a ticking time bomb. It doesn't mean everyone's going to have a heart attack, but if you're eating less of those foods that cause inflammation and hypertension, it's going to really decrease your risk of heart disease, specifically cancer, and your IGF-1 levels and LDL cholesterols will be more in check. So
it's not just life; it's also quality of life. You'll live a better quality of life if you're not eating processed meats. And processed meats are the worst, but meat in general.
I respect
any kind of fat that congeals at room temperature is bad for you. So, animal fat usually congeals at room temperature.
Right. Well,
anyway,
I respect your knowledge on the issue, Stens. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem. My dad's 87, never had any health issues whatsoever, and he's a vegetarian. He started when he was in his 30s. They also don't smoke, don't drink. I drink a little bit, but they don't. The Seventh-day Adventists don't. They don't even drink caffeine.
Yeah, I don't.
Like coffee and stuff.
Yeah, I don't tend to take caffeine or eat processed food at all.
Yeah,
In
you'll
one
live.
incident, you're asking questions, but when I give you the answer or provide you with evidence for the answer visually, you refuse to look at it.
Okay, well, that wasn't like a rebuttal of anything I said, because mercy, halal, Islamic slaughter still results in suffering and the
No,
removal.
no, it's not the action itself. I want you to see how the animal is behaving.
What is the animal?
Bro, when they stick him in the throat to drain the blood, that he's going to be in very much of he's going to be scared and screaming. He'll be choking on his blood.
No.
It's cruel, man. That's all there is to it. They don't even shoot them or to stun them.
You're judging before you see the video.
I've seen the video. No, I've seen the video. I've seen this video. I used to work in a slaughterhouse, bro. I know. I've seen goats hung up by their heels and they cut their throat. The goat screams bloody murder, man. I'm telling you, it's not a pretty thing. You're hurting an animal,
Yeah.
They cry. They literally cry. I saw a video where the Muslims are making fun of this goat before they stick him in the throat with a knife. And the guy goes, "Why are you crying?" Well, there's blood everywhere. He can see the other goats that have been killed. They know, man. They're not totally stupid. They're lower faculty type entities. They have emotions and all.
Right. I place like value on, having a conscious sentient experience, which I don't really draw arbitrary distinctions between like different species of animals, because I don't see that as reasonable or justifiable. They have the ability to have an experience, like respond to their surroundings, experience fear, pain, suffering, both psychological and physical forms of suffering. So why would I would just be drawing an arbitrary line in the sand and saying it's okay for me to kill this animal because of this distinction, this animal because of that, and it's just it's bullshit in my opinion.
Yeah, all lines are arbitrary, bud.
Yeah,
unless you're the goat being stuck in the throat. I mean, then it's not so such a mild thing.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, on the other hand, or if you're a baby in the womb and some supposed doctor's going to crush your skull with a pair of forceps, that's not a, arbitrary thing either. So, I mean,